Okay, we're continuing our journey with AI basics. So let's connect where we've been to where we're going. In the previous segment, you built a tool selection decision tree, a systematic way to match AI techniques to real problems. CNN for pattern recognition, RAG for knowledge retrieval, fine-tuning for domain expertise. You also built a bias detection dashboard to catch discrimination before it reaches users. In the very last segment, we talked about the gap between prototype and production, reliability, scale, and security. So we introduced the AI Sana framework with its 8 priority industries and 4 cross-industry domains. But here's what we didn't cover, the money part. How much does production actually cost? Because here's the brutal truth that most AI tutorials won't tell you. The API pricing you've been learning about, that's only 6 to 20% of your real costs. Today, we're going to show you where the other 80% goes. So I need to tell you something that most AI tutorials won't. They're lying to you, not intentionally, but by omission. And that lie can kill your startup. Here's what they teach. AI costs are about API pricing. Cloud Haiku cost 25 cents. 25 cents per million input tokens. Perhaps $1.25 per million output tokens. GPT 5.2 as of today cost $1.75 input, but $14 for output tokens. Compare the models. Pick the cheapest one that meets your needs. Done, right? That's maybe 10 to 20% of your actual cost when you run your startup venture. The other 80 to 90%, nobody talks about it. I've watched startups build their financial models around API costs alone. They calculate 1,000 users, 10 conversations each. If you're using Cloud Haiku, about $50 per month. That's nothing. Totally sustainable. Then they launch, and their first real cloud bill arrives, and it's not $50. It's $2,000 or $5,000 or $15,000 because API costs are just the tip of the iceberg. Today, we're going to show you the complete picture, what it actually costs to run an AI business, not just API calls, everything. Cloud infrastructure, databases, vector storage, email services, development tools, monitoring costs, security, compliance, you name it. There are so many different kinds of hidden costs. By the end of this segment, you'll understand why arguing about Haiku versus Sonnet is often irrelevant and what actually determines whether your startup survives. So let's walk through what a real AI startup costs at 3 different stages: MVP, growth, and scale. So here they are in the code. All right. So stage 1, MVP, minimal viable product. You're just starting, maybe 100 conversations per day, 1 or 2 developers, few hundred users testing your product. At this stage, API costs do matter proportionally. Let's break it down. AI APIs, Cloud 3.7 Haiku at the price of 2026, 100 conversations, let's say 800 tokens each. That's 2.4 million tokens per month. At 25 cents input and $1.25 output per million, you're looking at maybe $4 to $18 per month, depending on your input-output ratio. How about GPT 5.2? Somewhere like $3 to $12. Hosting services, like if you are having a pro account on Hugging Face, which we have used a lot, we used the free version, but it would be more. It would be maybe $9 per month. Railway or Render, maybe $20 a month. This gets you a persistent application that doesn't shut down when you close your laptop. So it's good to host your applications in these places. How about database? You need to have a custom database, right? So if you use a Supabase has a free tier. If you need more, the pro tier is $20 a month. You get Postgres, SQL, right? SQL plus authentication built in. So it's good to use these external services so that you don't have to worry about setting them up and running them on your own server. Vector database for RAG. You learned about what RAG is, right? Do you want to host it on your server, or you want to let someone handle that for you? So like Pinecone starter is free for small projects, up to $70 if you need more capacity. Media storage, you're going to have videos and images, audio files, what have you for your business, right? A company like Cloudinary gives you 25 gigs of free space, plenty for MVP. Email, if you need to send out marketing emails, or you need to send notifications, announcements to your customers and things like that. A company like SendGrid, they have a free tier. You can send 100 emails per day. Or you could use Google, Gmail, SMTP service. How about development tools? We talked about GitHub, the free account, right? Replit, Ghostwriter, Core is $10 per month for solo developers. Total MVP cost would be $17 to $145 per month. You can afford it, right? At this stage, API is only 20 to 40% of your costs. Model choice actually matters. Stage 2, growth level. Let's say things are working. Your company is doing well. It's starting to grow. You have 10, let's say 1,000 conversations per day. 3 to 5 developers. You have more people to manage your services. And you have 5,000 active users. Now that costs shift dramatically. AI APIs scale up. You're probably using Cloud 3.7 Sonnet for complex queries. $3 input, $15 output per million. Plus Haiku for simple FAQ routing, because you don't need quality responses. You're just working with FAQ, so you use Haiku. So plus maybe Gemini 3.0 Pro or GPT 5.2 as backup. You want to have backups, backup API services, so that if one fails, then the other will pick up automatically. You can set this up. And it is a safe way to do it. You do not want to rely on one company solution, right? You want to have a hybrid design. And combined API costs now run up $90 to $230 per month. But here's where the other costs explode. So for example, cloud compute. You need real infrastructure now. You can't run it on the free services. Now you probably want to use something like Google Cloud Platform, Cloud Run, or AWS, right? With auto scaling. If you get more customers, you have more interactions, and it automatically scale up so that you don't have to worry about getting more server spaces or CPUs or memory, things like that. It will do all that for you. Now it will be like $180 to $350 per month, plus load balancers. What if you have a high peak, like you have all of a sudden 1,000 people come and start to use your services? So you have to be ready, right? So you will need a load balancer. So that will cost you $25 to $60. Database. Now you have to get a little more serious. Databases like Cloud SQL for Postgres SQL, $60 to $180. You probably need Redis for caching now, another $35 to $85 on Upstash. So Redis is like when you are calling the API service, and then if you get concurrent calls at the same time, your applications may not handle it at all at once. So that's why you use Redis Celery workers to queue them up. And so whenever it is ready, you send your job and then wait. And so you just send them to the queue and you don't have to worry about it. So it becomes very convenient. Vector database at scale. Vector database. If you have a lot of RAG, for example, you do not want to have it on your server. You want it to be on someone else's box, like Pinecone. Pinecone standard for 1 million plus vectors. Only 80 to 170 bucks. Not bad for 1 million plus vectors. Media storage. All the videos and images will be stored in a place like Cloudinary Plus at $99 for real usage, plus Google Cloud Service or S3 for user uploads at AWS, $30 to $60. Email and marketing. Now you can use a company like SendGrid Essentials for 50,000 emails for $25 to $60 a month. That's not bad at all. And MailChimp for automation, $35 to $70. So if you need to send out marketing emails, notifications, announcements, signups, registration, password change, resets, all those emails going back and forth, that will add up very quickly. If you need to search or compare your product information with other competitors' products, and maybe you need to scrape some web information, you use a service called the SERP API for web searches, $85 to $170. And development tools. Now, if your company is growing, you will have multiple developers, right? So you're not just going to have a one Lovable account. You may have Lovable, Replit, Cloud Code, all the Vibe coding tools. And then if you have 3 developers, it will be maybe $60. GitHub team now, it's not just a single user. You will have a team of people sharing a GitHub, $4 per user, so 18 to 60 bucks. Cursor Pro for AI coding assistance, another 60 bucks for 3 developers. So, and then you want to monitor your services, right? To see if your application is up and running, it's down, maybe the API call is disconnected, something's not running, then you need to set up monitoring tool like a Sentry team for error tracking, $26. PostHog for analytics, up to 120 bucks. Authentication, you outsource your authentication. Clark is the name of the service for 5,000 monthly active users, $30 to $60. Okay, and then what if you have customers in other regions, not just Kazakhstan, but they're coming from the US, Korea, China, everywhere? Then you want to have CDN, Cloudflare Pro, something that's being used a lot by many companies out there. $25 for performance and basic security. So total growth stage, you're now paying $1,100 to $2,100 per month. API is only 10 to 18% of your costs. The shift has happened. Infrastructure now dominates. Okay, and so where the real money goes? Stage 3, scale up. We got disconnected, we'll reconnect it. Now, when you have 10,000 conversations per day, right, you have a lot of transactions happening on your system, which means good. It's a good thing. You have many transactions. A lot of people come to your site. You're growing. You're scaling up. You're becoming a global company. That's wonderful. 8 to 12 developers. You need many developers now. 50,000 plus users. This is where you need to think like a real company. That's a real company. And this is where costs become substantial. Let's start with what you probably expected, AI APIs. If you're using Cloud 3.7 Sonnet as your primary model, high volume means $450 to $750 per month. Cloud Haiku for routing simple queries, $100 to $180. Cloud Opus 4 for critical decision path, where you need maximum capability, would be like $250 to $600. And if you incorporate GPT 5.2 Pro as redundancy, it'll be $120 to $350. Maybe Gemini 3.0 Pro for diversity, right? You want to have a hybrid of these services, $150 to $400. So total API cost now would be like $1,000 to $2,280 per month. Sounds big, right? Now let's see what else you're paying for. Cloud compute at scale, like if you have that many customers and transactions, these things get really expensive. You need high availability because you want to have customers coming from Europe, US, Asia, everywhere. You want your services to be highly available in all, maybe 3 regions. Let's start with the 3 regions. So you use services like GKE, Autopilot across 3 regions. That's going to cost you $3,000 to $4,500 per month. Global load balancers would cost you up to $500. That's just to compute. Security-wise, Cloud Armor for DDoS protection plus WAF. So for example, if there are hackers out there, because if you start to run your GCP VM, and when you look at all the IP, SSH attempts, you will be surprised how many people around the world want to hack into your system. This is a serious issue that you have to deal with when you run your real company. So Cloud SQL, you need high availability, and then that will be like, it can be $1,800 per month if you have like automatic failover. Okay, and then Redis Enterprise for high availability caching will cost you like $700 or $1,000. And if you need the true global scale, Cloud Spanner, which will cost you $2,500 to $6,000 per month. Just databases alone can cost more than all your AI APIs combined, right? So now you know what costs you daily, okay? And vector database at enterprise scale, like Pinecone Enterprise with a dedicated infrastructure and multi-region will cost you from $600 to $1,800. So media storage, you remember you need to store all your media, the videos, audio files, and images. Cloudinary, Cloudinary Advanced for video processing, $300 to $550. Or you want to use Google GCS, multi-region. Again, multi-region makes it really the price differentiator. Because if you pick a one U.S. central region versus three, like India, and Europe and Asia, if you pick three regions, the cost goes double or triple. And CDN egress for serving media globally, $400 to $1,000. So, for example, if you have your tutorial videos for your customers, and then people are watching it from all over the world, then the cost will be significantly higher. So what do you have to do as a CEO? You may want to use a YouTube private share instead of hosting audio videos on your server, right? And email at scale, services like SendGrid Pro for 500,000 marketing emails per month. You can send a lot and a lot. The customer acquisition from these massive emails will be very, very low. Sometimes 0.001% acquisition from 500,000 emails. And then so you could send the SMS notifications. There's a service called Twilio for SMS notification, which will cost you $250 to $600 a month. And search, you remember SERP API, which is an amazing tool to search and scrape information from the web. That will cost you $600 a month. The development tools, now, if you have a team of like 10 developers, and then you're paying $25 each, and then you have a GitHub Enterprise and Cursor Business for AI-assisted coding, and then you have Linear or Jira for project management. That will be like several $100s. So just development tools alone, nearly $1,000 a month, almost as much as your AI API calls. Monitoring, right? Datadog Pro, which is more enterprise level monitoring, server monitoring. Full observability will cost you close to $2,000. PagerDuty, it's another service name, PagerDuty for incident management. That will cost you several $100s. Authentication to manage 50,000 monthly active users will cost you like $600. Analytics, if you want to do some serious analytics on where your users are going, what are they clicking on your app, things like that, will cost you another $600. Compliance now becomes an issue, because you are now a bigger company. You have to have a third party handle all your compliance. So if you want to sell to enterprises, you need SOC 2 compliance. There are companies like Venta or Drata, that will cost you $600 to $1,200 per month. Let's add it all up. That total scale-up cost would be like $17,000 to $35,000 per month, sometimes more. An AI API cost would be like maybe $2,500. That's 6 to 10% of your total bill. So AI costs not a lot. It's not a lot compared to what else you have to pay. So let me say that at scale, your AI API costs are 6 to 10% of your total cost, which is usual. The argument about Haiku versus Sonnet, that's a $500 per month decision inside $25,000 monthly bill. It's almost irrelevant. What actually matters at scale? Your cloud architecture, your database choices, whether you need to multi-region, or you can get away with a single region. whether you need Cloud Spanner or Cloud SQL is enough. These decisions swing your cost by $5,000 to $10,000 per month. Okay, so enough talk about that. I'm giving you these numbers just so that you are aware what is involved when you actually set up your company. Okay, so let's run this through a visualization. Okay, complete production cost, we already covered some of these numbers. So now we're going to run this visualizer, D3 visualizer. Okay, and then here is this visualization for you. So you click on MVP, right? MVP, and then look at the pie chart. Here's the breakdowns of the cost. AI API costs are only 3.0% of your total bill. AI doesn't cost that much money when you run a company, AI company. Pinecone Starter, Hugging Face, Space Pro, Railway, and Supabase Free. Almost all these costs are just nothing, right? Because you are using mostly free tier services. All these are free. So if you do that, you're paying spending $69 a month. That's nothing. That's nothing. You can start. But when you are in the growth stage, now you're bringing more services. Now API costs are 19% of your total bill, right? AI API costs $300 a month. GCP, virtual machine costs $265 a month. And then you have development tool, the media storage, SERP API, Pinecone, Cloud SQL, SandGrid, Sentry, Upstash, Clark, GCP load balancing, Cloudflare Pro, things like that. Will cost you about $1,600 a month. And when you have 1,000 conversations with your customer daily, what about scale up? Now that's the real serious costs, right? API costs only, again, small fraction, 11.4% of your total bill. You need to list all these services when you set up your company solutions, and then be realistic to find out how much does it really cost to run a company. This is very important because when you are seeking investment, you start with the seed money and then investment money and so forth. And if you are in an entrepreneurship journey, you have to have all these figures. You can't just ask investors, hey, we need $1 million investment. And then they will ask you why, how much, what are the breakdowns. Then you should be able to make a graph like this. The investors would love to look at the graphs like this. And then you could tweak this code and then make this kind of a presentation, real presentation. Like you could say, hey, we are at this stage. We want to go to the growth stage and eventually scale up in 6 months. And then the cost of our operation will be like this. So you need to have this breakdown for the presentation to your investors. Does it make sense? I hope it does. Okay. So now let's set up OpenAI API. We're going to create AI startup ideation coach system, a coach. So you just pick and choose your industries and then define some problems, and it will give you a lot of details about what's involved in setting up a company. Here, the first one is setting up the cell, Open API. So far, we've been just copy pasting the secrets in the code, which was easy for you to do. But now we are going to do it differently. First of all, you have to have an open AI API secret. You guys all know how to get that secret already, right? Because we've had incorporated OpenAI services before with a secret key. So you could put it in here if you want to, but here is another way to do it. You click on this key, and then you see notebook access, and here's the Open API. This is the Open API. This name goes here. And then when you grab your security, then you get this. The secret key starts with SK dash and then blah, 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 right? And so that's where you store your value here. Okay, again, the variable name, Open API key, goes here. And then when you grab the secret key from your third-party services like OpenAI, Gemini, Cloud, all the tokens, values go in here. And then you save it, and then you enable it, okay? And that way, you don't have to worry about losing or revealing the secret keys, even if you store these in GitHub in the public storage. People can access your code, but they will not be able to read the secret key from your code. Okay, so this is the safest way of managing your secret keys. So once you save it here in the key, you can bring all kinds of codes here, and you don't have to worry about the key because it will always be stored here. Okay, so anyway, so let's start up Coach. Okay, so now that you understand what things actually cost, let's find opportunities worth those costs. Okay, so we're setting up the industries where AI can create the most value: mining, agriculture, education, fintech, construction, telecom, and data centers, healthcare, energy, right? And it also identifies 4 cross-cutting domains that apply across all industries, like robotics. Robotics could be used in all these industries. Operational automation, right? Talent management, of course, you need that talent for all of these industries. Media, marketing, sales, safety, and security. So these are the cross-cutting domains. These are the sectors where Kazakhstan has both problems to solve and then the infrastructure to support AI solutions. So we're going to build an AI-powered ideation coach. You describe a problem, and it generates a complete startup analysis, including realistic cost estimates based on what we just learned. What a handy dandy tool for you to use, right? Not vague AI could help suggestions, but specific techniques, specific costs, specific business models. Okay, so the ideation coach follows a structured framework. I want you to understand this framework because it's how serious investors and entrepreneurs evaluate opportunities. Okay, so problem validation. The coach asks, is this a real problem? Your coach is asking you, your entrepreneur coach is asking you, is this a real problem? Not interesting or possible, right? But painful enough. It's got to be painful enough for people that people actively suffer from it. It looks for pain score. How much does this hurt on a scale of 1 to 10? And how often does it hurt, right? Frequency. It's like talking to your doctor. How often does this happen, right? Current solutions. What are the solutions for this pain? What do people do today to work around it? And what is the market size? How many people in Kazakhstan have this problem? If the problem isn't painful and frequent, there's no business. Simple as that. You have to look at a problem from these industries and see how painful is this problem and how frequently does it happen and who are affected by that. Okay, action 2. Section 2 here is AI solution fit. What specific AI technique fits? The coach picks one primary approach. CNN for image classification, RAG for document retrieval, fine-tuning for domain-specific language, reinforcement learning for sequential decisions. It evaluates why that technique fits, what data you need, and technical feasibility. Section 3, Kazakh advantage, right? Because you have an advantage. Why build this in Kazakhstan instead of importing a solution that's already out there, right? The coach will look at for language requirements. Does this need Kazakh or Russian? Local knowledge. Do you need to understand Kazakh regulations, culture, or business practices, and competitive moats? Why can't a foreign company just localize their existing product? If there's no Kazakh advantage, you're competing against companies with more resources, right? So the next section, realistic 2026 cost. This is where our cost analysis pays off. The coach estimates costs at 2 stages. MVP stage first, the first 3 months, right? Once you start your startup, it goes very fast. First 3 months, specific AI API costs using current pricing. For example, Cloud Haiku at 25 cents and then $1.25, and Sonnet $3 versus $15 output. Infrastructure costs, Hugging Face bases, Supabase, Pinecone Starter, or DevTools. Maybe you're paying for Replit or Lovable or Cloud Code or Cursor, right? All those costs. And growth stage, 6 to 12 months with 1,000 users, scaled AI costs, cloud infrastructure, GCP or AWS, database and vector database costs, marketing tools, real numbers, not vague estimates. So section 5 is business model. Okay, how does this make money? The coach suggests pricing in tenge, not dollars, target revenue per customer, and critically, break-even calculation. How many customers at what price to cover your costs? Section 6 is first 30 days. What happens in week 1, week 2, 3, 4, right? Concrete weekly actions, not build a product. That comes later. Week 1 might be like interview 10 potential customers. Week 2, build a no-code prototype using like Lovable or Replit or Cloud Code. Week 3, test pricing with a real payment. Week 4, analyze results and decide whether to continue or scrape it and then start all over. Okay, so let's build that idea coach, and then we'll test it here. Here's the test data. So what we're putting here in the industry we're choosing is education. Problem area, rural schools lack STEM AI teaching resources. That's the problem area. Target users, K-12 teachers in village schools. Cross-domain robotics automation. Okay, so if you put that as input, this is what API service will return. Okay, and then problem validation. Is this painful? 8 to 10. Rural schools in Kazakhstan often lack access to quality teaching resources, particularly in STEM AI. This results in a significant gap in education quality compared to urban schools, affecting students' future opportunities. Frequency, the problem occurs consistently as many rural schools struggle to find qualified teachers and resources, making it a regular issue. Current solutions, teachers often resort to outdated textbooks, limited online resources, or self-made materials. Some NGOs attempt to provide resources, but these are insufficient and sporadic. Market size. In Kazakhstan, there are approximately 7,000 schools in Kazakhstan with around 3,000 located in rural areas. If only 50% of these rural schools adopt STEM AI teaching resources, the target market could be around 1,500 schools. Okay. AI solution, primary technique, fine-tuning. Why this technique fits? Fine-tuning allows the adaptation of existing educational AI models to local curricula and language, making it easier to create relevant content for teachers in rural schools. You know what fine-tuning is now, right? Okay. So data requirements, access to educational data sets, local curricula, and teaching materials in Kazakh and Russian. Collaboration with the local educators for input and feedback will also be essential. Technical feasibility, 7 out of 10. The main challenge will be ensuring the models are relevant and effective for the rural context, requiring iterative testing and adjustments. Okay, Kazakh advantage, language requirements. The solution will need to support both Kazakh and Russian to cater to the diverse linguistic landscape of Kazakhstan. Local knowledge needed, understanding the specific challenges faced by rural teachers and students will be crucial for effective product development. Why foreign companies can easily enter? Because foreign companies may lack insight into the local educational context, language requirements, making it difficult for them to create relevant and effective solutions. Realistic costs estimates. AI cost, $3 a month, not bad. We can afford it, right? Infrastructure, $200 a month. That's a little bit high. Using Hugging Face space, hosting, and Supabase for database management. Development tool, we will use three of us, right? Three of us will be using Replit for $20 each. Total MVP cost, $263 a month. What if you go to growth stage? Total will be $1,030. Business model. Pricing, 5,000 tenge, $11 per school per month. Target revenue per customer, 5,000 tenge. Break even. To break even at the growth stage with an estimated monthly cost of $1,030, you would need approximately 207 customers. Schools at 5,000 tenge each. So first 30 days, conduct market research through surveys and interviews with the teachers in rural schools to identify specific pain points and needs. Week 2, develop a prototype of the AI educational platform, focusing on fine-tuning content based on local curricula. Week 3, create partnerships with educational NGOs and local government bodies to gain support and access to resources. Week 4, launch a pilot program in a select number of rural schools to gather feedback and iterate on the product based on user experience. That's not bad at all with this test data. All you had to type in was this, okay? And then you get that rich feedback from the AI coach, right? And then the cell 6 is basically this interface calls the API directly. No copy paste. You fill in the fields, click generate, and get results immediately. And you can select industry from the drop down. We can try different things. Here. So industry, let's try healthcare. Okay. And optional cross domain. Let's pick safety and security. Describe the problem. All right. Rural clinics struggle to triage patients accurately. Nurses make initial assessments but lack specialist knowledge, right? I mean, if you want to try different industry, that's up to you. You can choose whichever industry you like, right? You can, whichever is your area or you want to explore, creating a startup, okay? But I'm just giving you an example how to use this coach, all right? Serious conditions get missed or patients travel unnecessarily to city hospitals. Okay. All right. Target user. Who are the users? Nurses at village clinics in remote regions of Kazakhstan, right? That's all you have to type. So you could do this. I mean, this is not too much information to give to your coach, right? So if you click on Generate Startup Analytics, what is it going to do? It's going to send that input tokens to OpenAI using your secret key, and then output tokens are generated here. All right. Okay, problem validation. Is this painful? 8 out of 10. Triage errors can lead to severe health consequences, including misdiagnosis, unnecessary patient transfers, and increased healthcare costs, making it significant issue in rural healthcare. I think that's correct. Frequency. This happens frequently as rural clinics often handle a high volume of patients with limited resources and knowledge. Current solution. Currently, nurses rely on basic training, experience. Market size in Kazakhstan. Approximately 7 million people live in rural areas of Kazakhstan. With around 1,200 rural clinics, if we estimate an average of 100 patients per clinic per month, that's 12 million patient visits annually. AI solution, primary technique, fine-tuning. Why this technique fits? Fine-tuning a pre-trained model on a data set specific to common rural health conditions allows for better accuracy in triaging patients based on symptoms, enhancing nurses' decision-making. Data requirements. Data from health records of rural clinics, including symptoms, diagnosis, outcomes, as well as demographic data of patients. A minimum of 10,000 records is required for effective training. Technical feasibility, the technology exists, and there are more available for fine-tuning, but local data collection may be challenging. Kazakhstan advantage. Language requirements. The AI model needs to support both Kazakh and Russian, as these are the primary languages used in healthcare settings in Kazakhstan. Local knowledge needed, understanding rural healthcare challenges, common conditions, cultural considerations is crucial for the model's effectiveness. Why foreign companies can't easily enter this market? Foreign companies may lack insights into local health systems, cultural nuances, and the unique challenges faced by rural clinics, giving a local startup a competitive edge. I think that's correct. Realistic 2026 costs, API, very cheap. Development tool, $20, not much. Even growth stage, if you have something like that, the total growth cost will be $853 a month, assuming that you are not getting paid from this startup. You have not been invested by any investors yet. Okay, business model, pricing 2,000 tenge per month per clinic. Target revenue per customer 200,000 tenge annually. Break even, approximately 20 clinics at 2,000 tenge each cover the costs, leading to a break-even point within the first year. First 30 days, week 1, conduct interviews with the nurses and clinic managers to understand specific challenges and needs. Week 2, collect and analyze existing health records from rural clinics to identify common conditions and symptoms for model training. Week 3, develop a prototype of the AI triaging system and initiate fine-tuning with collected data. Week 4, start outreach to potential pilot clinics for feedback and to identify early adopters willing to test the system. Wow. So the AI coaching system gives you everything you need, right? And all you have to do is just pick an industry. Pick an industry. Basically, you can just rerun it and then it loads up again. You pick an industry you like. You can pick agriculture, education, fintech, what have you. Cross-cutting domain, you pick and get the prompt. What prompts do you see? Put them in there. And who are the target users, right? So you're ready. You learned a lot. You learned different techniques of AI, different models. You've seen business cases. So you got some ideas how you might solve some problems in Kazakhstan, right? Because you have the local knowledge and you know the local nuances, right? So I think you're ready. I think you are ready to go make some serious startup venture. Okay, so let me leave you with the synthesis of everything we covered just now. First, understand real costs. API pricing is 6 to 20% of your production cost, depending on scale. The rest is infrastructure, databases, development tools, monitoring, compliance, budget for all of it, right? You need all that considered if you're seeking investment fund. If you're asking your investors to fund you to do your business, you gotta know all these things. Second, match cost to stage, right? At MVP stage, optimize for speed and learning, not cost efficiency. At growth, architecture decisions start mattering more than API selection. At scale, your cloud infrastructure is your cost structure. Third, find problems worth the costs. Use the ideation coach to evaluate opportunities systematically. Pain score, look at the pain score. Technical feasibility, Kazakh advantage, realistic costs. Business model, first 30 days. It helps you think through all this stuff. And fourth, validate before building. Do not start building something, okay, unless you validate it. The ideation coach generates hypotheses. Your job is to test them, talk to customers, build minimal prototype, find out if anyone will pay before you spend months developing. It won't take months, by the way, these days. You could use the vibe coding to come up with the prototype in matter of hours, right? The AI industry in Kazakhstan is early, okay? 8 AI Sana industries have real problems. The costs to solve them, while substantial, are lower than in Western markets. That's your advantage. So you can build something real. You can build something real that make a huge difference in Kazakhstan. So I think you probably feel confident now. I hope you feel confident now. And then you've been doing these smile activities here, right? So I've been asking you to come up with a what if hypothetical questions and then share your questions. What if you change something? What if this existed? Or if this did not exist? Or this solution could be designed? Or something can be addressed using some of the models that you have learned throughout this program, right? So you've been sharing your hypothesis and an inquiry questions leading to innovation and startup venture idea, right? So I think you have everything you need to go get started with your startup venture. And I think I have given you everything you need so far. I can't think of anything else, but I will come up with something. And I hope to see you succeed. I want to see you coming up with a real problem that's defined and then solutions that are addressing the problems. And use this coach here. Use this coach and get some help. Try different industries with the cross industries and then with different problems and different target users and see what this AI tells you. Maybe this could be your service.